I don't really know how to say this, but we lost a CEO. We lost a CEO. I'm sure you guys have seen Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was shot and killed in New York City in December 2024 while he was on his way to an investors meeting. Now, some people probably try to tell you that this is a good thing, but do you think that they care at all about the shareholders? I don't think so. So they have a suspect in custody, one Luigi Mangione. I'm assuming that's how you say it. He was arrested in a McDonald's after someone recognized him and snitched on him. And they said that he had a fake IDs with him, a 3D printed gun with a suppressor, etc. He also has like a manifesto, and according to like a lot of his social media posts and stuff, it seems like this is the guy. And the response to this, I think, has been interesting. We've seen a joining together of people across political spectrums if they are among the working class. And I think we've also seen a joining among people across political spectrums in a different way if they are among the more upper, wealthy, privileged class. And so I want to look at two different situations here from two different sides of the political spectrum. Not super far on either side, but we have Ben Shapiro here a little bit before he made his review of Wicked, the theater queen that he is. He made a video called The Evil Revolutionary Left Cheers Murder. And so I'm going to play a little bit of this to just kind of get an idea of what his thoughts were. And then we're going to take a look at his comments to see how his audience responded, which was very interesting to me.
The real question in all of this is how Americans respond. So Taylor Lorenz, we talked about her yesterday. She is a psychotic former reporter for the Washington Post and the New York Times.
So Taylor, I appreciate some of her work. Funny enough, she made a video reply to one of my TikToks recently on Hassan Piker, and she is a huge simp for Hassan, and so she had a lot to say on that, but it was very dishonest in the way that she characterized what I was trying to say. And so the more I see of her, the more I see that she is not, I don't agree with a lot of what she says, but I wouldn't characterize her as insane at all.
She's totally insane. She was insane on COVID. She was insane when it came to the supposed predations of people on the right who ought to, she said, be shut out of media and particularly social media. Well, now she is full-scale rallying in favor of the murderer. So she tweeted yesterday on Blue Sky, which is a weird left-wing echo chamber form of Twitter. There was a post put out by Blue Cross Blue Shield all about whether it was going to pay for anesthesia under its healthcare coverage. And she then tweeted out, quote, "And people wonder why we want these executives dead." So openly cheering the death of Brian Thompson. That wasn't her only post. Somebody put out a statement saying, quote, "Legislation idea, healthcare executives and their families must be on the cheapest plan their company offers, and they aren't allowed to seek other care." And she wrote in all capital letters, "Endorse." Then.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. The first thing I would think, I don't think is a great statement to make, especially when you're such a public figure. I think there's a much better way as a public figure to direct this discourse into positive, like, class consciousness. And I think that that's probably a little counterproductive on her part.
And she put out a post that showed a graphic of a happy star, like a star with a happy face and balloons, and the caption "CEO down." And she wrote, "Woke up to see this spammed in my group chats."
See, now that's just funny. Nothing wrong with memeing on him.
And she said, "I am not alone," that other people were doing the same thing. Then she reposted a post from left-wing agitator Ken Klippenstein saying, "Today we remember the legacy of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson." And what exactly was that legacy? The claim denial rates by insurance companies. And of course, it's not just Taylor Lorenz. Socialist Nathan Robinson, a complete useless leech on the ass of society,
Is he just like reading? Did his team type this out for him? That's funny. Nathan though he's a silly person. He is ostensibly a socialist, but when his publication that he owned, when the employees there wanted to socialize or unionize, I can't remember either way, they wanted a more equitable workplace, and so when they brought that up, he fired all of them. Other than that, I don't know much about him as like a journalist or a writer.
Posted himself, quote, live your life in such a way that people will be sad when you die. That was above a screen cap of a New York Times headline that said, torrent of hate for health insurance industry follows CEO's killing.
That's good advice.
That piece from the New York Times is all about people who apparently were perfectly fine with the murder of Brian Thompson on the streets of New York City. According to the New York Times, none of this stopped social media commentators from leaping to conclusions and showing a blatant lack of sympathy over the death of a man who is a husband and father of 2 children. Thoughts and deductibles to the family, read one comment underneath a video of the shooting posted online by CNN. Unfortunately, my condolences are out of network. A TikTok user wrote, quote, I'm an ER nurse, and the things I've seen dying patients get denied for by insurance, it makes me physically sick. I just can't feel sympathy for him because of all those patients and their families. And these.
So he's going to do like a deep introspective examination of why people feel this way and what issues we might have in society or with our system. That's what he's going to do, right?
Sorts of messages were incredibly common across the internet. We discussed yesterday a Columbia professor who wrote something very similar. Unfortunately, bubbling under the surface of all this is something very serious, really serious. What is that serious thing? The
people being ground underneath the ever-churning wheel of capitalism.
Revolutionary left is creeping into the mainstream. Yesterday we talked about liberals versus the left. Liberals are people who disagree with me on public policy, but aren't in favor of, the murder of their opponents. The left is a different thing. The shooting of Thompson has unleashed a wave of evil from members of the left.
Okay, so you get the idea here, right? He's trying to say that this response is evil, and he's painting it all on the left. But very clearly, the right and the left have had pretty similar reactions to this. And it seems that the person who did this, Luigi, was right-wing himself. It seems like he definitely had some mix of leftist and right-wing ideology. But yeah, to characterize this as just a left-wing issue is silly, especially also when right-wing people have no problem celebrating when people they don't like are killed or harmed. I can think of like Paul Pelosi when he was attacked. I can think of like George Floyd protesters when they were ran over. People are gleeful about that. So like to characterize this as a leftist issue is silly. But I saw like on social media, I saw this and then I saw people saying like, you got to check out his comments. And so I thought maybe it wasn't as, and, sometimes when you see stuff on social media, it's not really as big as they say it is. But I checked it out. And first off, you can see here the like to dislike ratio. He's got 53,000 dislikes, 7,000 likes. Let's see here. So we got unsubbed. Find another audience to play apologist to the people who make the lives of hardworking Americans difficult. Remember, guys, Ben has more in common with that CEO than he has with any of us. Right-winger here. You were wrong, Ben. This man denied 35% of claims. One was my dead parents' heart surgery we couldn't afford. He opted to die instead of give us the debt. I guess, quote unquote, the left at this point is anyone who isn't a millionaire. You're out of touch, Benny. This is one time the left and right are united on something. Deleting comments you don't like won't change that. It's not left or right. It's not black or white. It's rich versus poor. Your true colors are showing. Wow, maybe I've been wrong this entire time, Ben. I don't think you actually care about us. I think you just want our money. I think you want us to hate each other. Please tell us more, multimillionaire, about how we poor people should hate each other. I'm not buying this left versus right shit anymore, Ben. I want health care for my family. So there are hundreds of comments like this, and certainly there's probably a lot of liberals and leftists coming in and making comments, but it really seems like his own audience is having a visceral reaction to this and not kind of having the reaction that he maybe thought he was going to have. And I find that really interesting. I want to go now to something Chris Cuomo said about this, and he pretty much had a very similar take. Let's see what he had to say.
Still gray, but here's one thing's for sure. There are a lot of people who are happy about this. Yes, hiding in the nice anonymous dumpster fire that is Twitter. But show these tweets celebrating his death. Even people who call themselves journalists, Ken Klippenstein and Taylor Lorenz, tweeting about how bad a man he was the day he died. People had similar tweets wishing Trump had been killed as well. All right, well, I guess that's par for the course these days, but don't these people understand? Won't someone in their life, if these are their real names, explain to them? You are worse than what you oppose when you celebrate murder as a justifiable end for disagreement over policy. I mean, what the hell is going wrong here? Really crazy stuff.
So there you have, I think, two opposite ends of the spectrum, and neither of them are super far down on either end of the political spectrum, but they are opposing. But they both have in common that they are wealthy. And so we see the upper class trying to impose on the working class people this sense of civility and morality when it comes to this. And here's why it's not going to work. Our system is predicated off of, is built off of that ever turning wheel of capitalism that grinds people to dust underneath it as a feature, not as a bug. It crushes people under its weight day in and day out, week after week, year after year, decade after decade, and nobody cares. There's no sympathy except for the few people in your immediate life. Maybe, if you're lucky. And so why should we care when, albeit one of the small spokes on that wheel that is involved in its perpetuation, in its crushing of people, gets removed from society? Why should we care? Why should we have sympathy? Now, to be clear, I condemn this sort of action. Generally, I think ultimately there is a time for violence, but I don't think we in America are anywhere near that time. Mainly because acts like this are not sustainable or even really effective for acquiring long-term change and progress, and at a large scale would end up hurting more working class and marginalized people than it would help, and contribute to even more suffering than we have now. So yes, this should not be condoned, but this will, if it keeps on turning the way it is, it's just not sustainable, and you're going to see more of this in the future. This is very similar, in fact, to Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. When he put out his manifesto, a large part of America agreed with it. And a lot of it is just, it is agreeable, right? What he did was wrong. What he did was condemnable. But a lot of his ideas about society and his frustrations with society were legitimate. And people resonated with that. And I think people are resonating with this act here as well. And my hope is that this is an opportunity for people on the right and on the left to unite against our true enemy, which is this system. This moment here is bigger than this moment. It's not about Brian Thompson. It's not about Luigi. It's about what this system does to people. It's about the fact that everyone deserves to be able to have the opportunity to enjoy this life, to be able to enjoy the very short amount of time that we get with our friends and family without having to work 80, 90, 100 hours a week just to survive for decades and then running yourself into an early grave. People shouldn't have to do that. And I'm not saying I have all the answers or there's some other system that would be perfect for us. And I'm not saying that we all should just be equal and everything, be the same. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that things don't have to be the way that they are. In 2020, we saw the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to the wealthy that we have ever seen. While people were fighting and clawing to survive through COVID, the rich raked in record profits. And I just think that it's time for us to join together as working class people to say enough is enough. I don't know, what kind of a system we could agree on, but there's a lot of things that we can agree on right now. I think that we should be able to agree on that Democrats, although generally are a little more sympathetic to trying to ease the pain that ever turning wheel causes people, that tries to do some things to make sure that employers can't take advantage of their employees as much, to make sure that they can't take advantage of consumers as much. But we should all be able to agree that they do not do nearly enough. And conservatives, I'm sorry, but we should be able to agree that a billionaire con man is not the answer. He's not the man that's for the people. And him surrounding himself with the richest man, one of the richest men in the world, Elon Musk, and another billionaire, Vivek Ramaswamy, is not the answer for the people. They are going to help the wealthy. They are going to help corporations, all the while telling you that because they're helping the corporations can then in turn use all that wealth that they have to help you. When has that ever worked? When has that ever happened? We have been trying that for decades with Reaganomics, trickle-down economics. It doesn't work. All it has done has caused wage stagnation and massive wealth inequality. What we have seen is that when companies have less regulation, when they are able to make more money, what they do is treat their employees worse. If they don't have to give overtime, they won't give it. If they don't have to pay for your health care, they won't do it. If they don't have to provide a safe work environment, most of the time they won't do it. And if they can cut corners with their products when it comes to safety, when it comes to food safety, they will do it, and they will put consumers at risk. And so I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we come together, but we could. We could look past all the culture war bullshit and just let each other live our lives. Conservatives, y'all can worship how you want. You can raise your families how you want. Liberals, leftists, progressives, they can live their lives. We can live our lives how we want. We can raise our families how we want. We can be free. We can have liberty. We can pursue happiness in the way that we choose, so long as we aren't hurting each other. But the elites, the billionaires, the politicians, they are all invested wholly in continuing that wheels turning because it profits them, because it makes their lives better. And they distract us by making us think that you and I are each other's enemies, and we just don't have to be. That's all I got for you. What do you think about this whole situation? If you want to make my life a little bit more enjoyable, please like the video and subscribe to me. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time.